All right, guys, this is the video, the one that I've been thinking about for a while, of psychoanalysis. And I actually got really good sleep last night, so I feel pretty mentally clear. I already know what it is because of this new job. It has me waking up at like 6 in the morning, essentially. And I'm not a morning person. I'm the type of person that literally wakes up at like 9:30, 10. It's why I usually like to work swing shifts, but you know, it is what it is. The job market sucks, so I just took this job. But yeah, that's pretty much why I've been struggling. I think today is definitive proof, because I just slept my normal day. I'm filming this video on Memorial Day, and I just slept my normal hours this time, and I feel great. So yeah, that's definitely it. But yeah, if you guys have been watching the videos up to this point, you know that I bring up psychoanalysis a lot, my criticisms of it. And again, I'm going to be coming at this from a very Christian perspective. So if that's not your thing, then maybe this won't be the video for you. But I can even come at it from like even a scientific realm if you guys would like. Again, my assumption though is science can't exist without God, so like you're in the conundrum there. But if you really are somebody that believes that we came from monkeys, then there is another purpose even in that realm to why psychoanalysis doesn't work. So yeah, before we get into that, my name is Joey. This is the Jigsaw 0097 channel. If you guys are new here, please go ahead and consider subscribing, like the channel, comment down below. Really helps, dear viewer. I'd like to get this channel to grow. I don't know what's going on with the channel. It seems like, I know I'm changing my niche, but it seems like it's shadow banned or something, because I'm seeing similar channels make like very similar content to what I'm making, and they're growing consistently. So I don't understand it. You know, I guess it really just takes that one viral video. My channel's never really had a viral video, so could be it. Could be a whole bunch of things. I might go and delete or make private a lot of my old football videos, because yeah, I've got almost 1,000 videos on here, but really only like 300 of them are worth a damn in my opinion. But yeah, that's beside the point. And sometimes the reason, if you guys are wondering, the reason why I do these drawn out intros is because that's another part of YouTube's algorithm, is that if you just like go into a video and start saying things, YouTube tends to like flag that quicker. At least that's what I've been told. So that's why I kind of usually wait until about 3 or 4 minutes before I really start getting into things. But yeah, so psychoanalysis. If you guys don't know, psychoanalysis is a science that was started by Sigmund Freud, basically at the turn of the century, right? To understand it further, you go back to like something like Darwin. This is another reason why I really think psychoanalysis is a fraud, right? I might even call this video like Sigmund Fraud. Been thinking about like a clever title for it, because as I've talked in the past, and as you guys may know, Darwinism's presuppositions are evolution, and evolution relies on the Big Bang Theory and the fact that we evolved from apes. As I heard JFG Garippy say many years ago, monkey think, monkey do. That's essentially the argument of Darwinism, evolution. Right now, I'm not a big debate bro, but you know, I've been in debates with my friends. I have friends all over the spectrum. I've got Mormon friends, I've got atheist friends. Not as many anymore because of COVID, but I used to have like leftist friends. I think I still have. I still have one leftist friend, actually. He's a good guy. He's an older guy, but yeah, I still have him, but he's the type of guy where he's just like so old he doesn't care that much. He's just kind of like he's more of like a libertarian, really, if I think about it. So yeah, I'm not really like a debate bro on these things, but I've had discussions enough to where I feel like I'm informed enough to talk on psychoanalysis. And of course, you know, the big opening door for a lot of us with this was Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson talked about Carl Jung. You know, Jordan Peterson's a really weird character in hindsight, because if you think about, he's almost more subversive than a lot of these outright atheists, because what he tried to do is he tried to apply psychoanalysis to Christianity, which is really weird, because Christianity already has a form of therapy, because that's the whole point of psychoanalysis, is to therapeutize the brain, right? Like, people have traumas, and we'll get into why people have traumas as well. It's almost like this was planned, guys. It's almost like they, again, the dialectic, right? Create the problem and sell the solution. It's almost like all of this was completely avoidable. But in Christianity, as you guys know, there is a form of therapy already. It's called going to confession, right? Like going to your church father. In the Mormon church, it's called going to your bishop, right? These things have always existed within religious communities, because my theory is there's no such thing as genuine trauma without genuine suffering, and I'll kind of explain what I mean by that. You're seeing this in the world now, right? Like, everybody has trauma, but they don't really know how to solve it. This is why people go to therapy for like years. They'll like, I know a girl, she's literally been going to therapy for her childhood trauma. Like, I won't get into the details of that. Needless to say, it involves the usual things that happen to young people these days, right? But she's been going to therapy for like 11 years. Pretty much ever since I've known her, right? She's been going to therapy to like solve this trauma, but nothing's changed as far as I can tell. Like, because I don't know, my theory is you cannot get over trauma until you recognize the suffering, and really the only way to do that is through Christ. So I'm not trying to make this like a sermon, but there's no way to, if you don't have like a metaphysical presupposition for why your suffering exists, there's no scientific or worldly or secular thing that can like really get you over it, right? Because the problem with the world and the many of the assumptions, I guess you could say, of psychoanalysis and modern science is that it has a distinct failure to recognize evil. And you guys kind of see what, like, you're seeing this with COVID, you're seeing this with, you know, LGBTQ, pornography, like things that are actually evil. You know, you guys can get mad if you want over that statement, but I don't really care. It's objectively true. When you have a society that cannot recognize evil, it creates trauma. And so the reason why psychoanalysis even exists is because people are traumatized and we don't have the church anymore. So the way that people have to get over their trauma, I should say, is they have to go to therapy, right? And of course, this is also a money laundering scheme, because when you go to church, you don't have to pay to go to confession. But when you go to therapy, it's like part of your health plan, and you got to pay upwards of thousands of dollars. I don't even know. I've never been to therapy in my life, so I don't actually know the costs, but I've talked to people, and then there's like lots of different therapies they have right now. Like, there's a new wave, like they call it red light therapy. It's like, oh yeah, go sit in this red light room and it will detoxify you of whatever, right? It's almost like Scientology level of retardation in some ways. If you think about it now, they have all these, like, this is what's always funny too about atheists, is they always call Christianity like kooky, and then you just look at some of the stuff they do, and it's like the stuff they do is even more kooky. Because really, again, all it is to me is it's a fundamental inability or refusal to accept truth. So of course you're going to be traumatized if you walk around living in a world of falsehood. And again, facing the truth can also be depressing. I always say on this channel, I'm fairly black-pilled in my view of society as a whole, but as far as the long-term picture, I'm very white-pilled. I'm very hopeful, because I believe in God, and I believe in, you know, historical cycles. You know, these ultimately Christ will return, but also there are seasons to history, and we're just in a bad season. That's just kind of, everybody that's born in a period of time, you know, has their trials and tribulations, you could say. And so, but if you're raised in secular liberalism, which is our society's status quo, you don't really have these assumptions. They're not even taught to you. Like I've said in the past, I feel very blessed to even have been raised in a Mormon family with a mother and father that didn't get divorced. That's like something that is so rare, even for millennials. Boomers were the first generation where divorce became normalized, and you know, I always consider myself very blessed that didn't happen to me. I didn't have to go through. I never had to experience, you know, what a lot of my friends experienced, where, you know, you have to like go to your mom's house for the weekend, and then you're with your dad for these days. And yeah, and I've seen the ramifications as well, like of that. And then now it's even going to be even worse, because we have so many single mothers, single parents. But a lot of people just don't know. They just don't know what it's like to even have a metaphysical presupposition or worldview ingrained in them. Because I think this way mostly. Like that's another thing, is a lot of the ways people think is it is not genetic, but it is kind of hereditary, or you could say you kind of do start to mimic your parents. That's what I'm looking for to say. Whether you like it or not, you're going to pick up the bad and the good traits of your parents. We kind of all do. And if your parents aren't around, you know, you're going to pick someone that was the most parental figure to you. This is why things like daycare are so bad, because yeah, like when you send people to daycare, you could be like especially now, right? You could be giving them off to some like leftist tranny, and that's who's raising your kid. So, but yeah, that was kind of a digression, but it still plays into the main point. So we've talked about trauma-based mind control in the past. We've talked about mind control and propaganda in general, right? And this all goes back to the pre-liberalism priors, the secularist, liberalist priors, a lot of which comes out of the French Revolution. I haven't really talked about that as much, but the French Revolution was kind of the breeding ground for a lot of this stuff, especially with the idea of monarchy, which is ultimately patriarchy. And again, this is the order of God. You have God, man, woman, child. So when you mess with this order, everything becomes inverted. You start to live in a bizarro, inverted clown world, which is what we exist in largely now. And it's just now feeling in my life that it is shifting more right wing. So like, we'll see what the future holds, but we are still firmly in clown world, and it might not get resolved in my lifetime. Very unlikely. I'll be an old man, like a very old man probably, if I ever see it. But so yeah, basically with all of that said, trauma started to appear en masse, and this really happened in the 60s, right? Like E. Michael Jones has talked about this, I'm a big horror movie fan, but something to do if you guys watch horror movies. I have actually a friend that watches horror movies. If he's watching these videos, highly doubtful, but it'd be cool if he was. If you watch horror movies from a trauma lens, why do horror movies exist at all, right? Part of it's because of the Hollywood machine, but there's deeper meanings to horror movies. And like I said, E. Michael Jones has talked about this. One of my favorite horror movies of all time is Alien. Alien was made in 1979, pretty much right after, it was made in the aftermath of the sexual revolution. There's this movie called Deep Throat that had come out. This is, of course, a pornographic film. But, you know, this was when it all started, right? You guys can look into that. It's not very, like, YouTube friendly to go into that too much. But, yeah, like the 60s and the 70s was the beginning of the, you could say, the trauma of the sexual revolution. Because this was when, you know, free love, right? With every action, there's a consequence. That's what trauma is. Trauma is the consequences of your actions. So, a lot of horror movies started to mimic these traumas as a way to cope, because that's another thing. A lot of this is cope. So, Alien. What is Alien about? Alien is about a movie, or Alien is a movie about an organism that literally jumps on your face, forces an egg down your throat, and then another creature violently bursts out of your chest and kills you. That's the fundamental story of Alien, of all the films, really. And like I said, I'm a big fan. I think Alien probably is my favorite horror franchise of all time. Alien and like Blade Runner, for sure. You know, Blade Runner is another interesting film. It's especially the new one, 2049. I think 2049 is going to go down as one of the greatest films ever made, especially as it relates to men in the current age. But yeah, Blade Runner is also about trauma. It's about, you know, men not having a place, and also just living in a world where you don't know what's real and what isn't. And we're heading into that now with AI, right? There might be a day where you'll be watching a video like this and you won't even know if I'm real. You know, that's kind of what Blade Runner was predicting. So even though Hollywood is completely compromised and is full of leftists and, you know, liberalist ideals, communism, it's still, even newer movies, you can do it with newer movies, even though they're very much more cringe and a lot less, they're a lot less talented, you could say, with writing stories. But even modern movies, they've got the messages in there. You can break them down. And so, yeah, like a lot of horror movies, you know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a lot of these movies to me are just reactions. They were reactions to a degenerate society, and like the way to cope with degeneracy is to kind of like try to numb yourself to it. I remember as a kid, like I kind of regret it now, because like it really is true what they say, like whatever you put in your brain, it doesn't really leave your brain. So there's like two things I would probably change about myself if I could, is I would never have looked at pornography, and I would have never watched a lot of these horror movies that I've watched. And one of the movies that really messed me up, like really messed me up when I was a kid, was the Saw movies. And I remember when I was the first Saw movie came out in like 2004. So I would have been in like, I think I was in like 10th grade at the time, something like that. But I remember the girl that I was dating at the time, you know, she really wanted me to watch these movies. She's like, you gotta watch Saw, they're so, I remember she was saying that, they're so like different, like you've never seen a movie like this. And again, this is before the torture porn genre existed. Movies like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or like The Hills Have Eyes, they were kind of early iterations of it, but the Saw movies were literally just brutal movies about people like being forced to torture themselves. And I remember that the farthest I ever went was the Hostel movies, because I did watch the Saw movies. I've seen them all, regrettably. Because when I was young, you know, it was like, I kind of, what I'm trying to get at is once I saw the Saw movies, I kind of felt like I had to keep watching them. It was this weird thing of like, oh, I got to keep pushing myself, right? And this happens with a lot of society. You see a lot of people do this, like tattoos, piercings, just weird things that people do to themselves. And my theory over the years, this all ties into psychoanalysis, I promise, guys. By the way, if you guys have watched into this, we're 20 minutes in. Thank you guys so much. If you've made it this far, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below. Appreciate the support. But yeah, this is all going to tie in because my ultimate theory of all of this stuff is that people are trying to cope with society. And I think a lot of people deep down, they know that therapy is bullshit, to just say it like outright. Like a lot of people I know, they go, I've very rarely met somebody that's like gone to therapy. It's kind of like AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. Like I've very rarely met people that have like gone through these things and it's like actually cured them of their ailment. And it's not even that it should, it's just that AA and therapy, these are cheap imitations of, like I said, just going to confession, right? Just having a genuine community of people that can help you, which most of America doesn't have anymore because that's what happened. They destroyed it through Hollywood and propaganda and immigration, all the things, right? They pretty much destroyed the ability to have something like that. And so that's why people need to go to therapy now. That's another thing too, is a lot of people, just to work, they have to go live in a city. That's one of the tragic things about where I live now, is that this used to be a really small town. I remember when I was young, like when I moved here in the 90s, I think 92 was when my family moved here. And I always joke, my dad got this house for like $70,000. Absolutely insane. It was that cheap, but yeah, I remember this was a really small town. There was like this neighborhood that I'm in, and there was like a Kroger, and that was it. I think there was like one gas station. And now this is like becoming a huge, they're building apartments everywhere. Like all the farmers are selling their land. That always depresses the hell out of me when I see farmers sell their land. Because you know what they're going to do. They're going to turn it into mega complexes. They're going to turn it into affordable housing. Even though it's not affordable, you're paying over $2,000 in rent. And so yeah, like living in a city, living in this kind of environment is unnatural. That's another thing that causes trauma in people. They don't even realize it. And so then they go to therapy. Or they drink. There's always got to be something to numb the pain except facing the actual reality. And so, yeah, it's kind of a long-winded way of saying that psychoanalysis was invented because this is why I think that these people are evil and they know what they're doing. And they have known what they're doing, because I've said in the past, when you have a Darwinist perspective of human nature and human beings, you effectively make them animals. And when you make them animals, you strip all dignity from them as human beings, as creatures of God, right? However you want to look at it. The divinity of human nature. You strip the idea that we are created in the image of God. When you do that, it allows you to divorce yourself mentally from that reality, and then you just look at everyone as a means to an end, essentially. You're seeing that with the MGTOW crowd now. You're seeing that with feminism. Everything's adversarial now, because that's, even if you don't believe it, the propaganda is so deep now that you just assume it. You know, I made a video about how I don't trust anything in society anymore. And that's kind of why, is because everybody is kind of looking out to get you. You gotta look out for yourself in that regard, right? And so, yeah, the reason why Sigmund Freud was so propagated, right? He talks about things like repression, right? That was his big thing. Again, this is just trauma, but he's like, oh, you're just repressed. And this is also when they started to go after, you know, the sexes, right? The term gender, by the way, if you want to really blow your mind, look up the term gender and who coined it. It's a guy named John Money. And I won't get too into detail about him because it's not pretty. But yeah, whenever you use the word gender, just remember that John Money was the reason that word exists. And the reason that word existed is because they wanted to destroy the male-female. Like, oh, if we get rid of the term sex and we create the word gender, then that can mean anything, right? That can mean, and this is where it all comes from, right? I mean, it comes from much further, right? There was things like this going on in Weimar Germany, but throughout the ages, there's always been this like movement. Again, if you have a metaphysical, spiritual understanding, Christian understanding of these things, it's not shocking, truly, because you see that throughout the ages, this has always been the battle of humankind. It's the battle with truth versus illusion, you could say. But yeah, somebody like Sigmund Freud propped up AstroTurfed because he comes up with this term called repression. And a lot of this started with Hollywood. Of course, Hollywood was also a giant sex ring, so this is why I've said in the past they won't release the Epstein files, because the society we live in, pretty much everyone gets their ideas from movies, and since Hollywood is a giant sex ring, like everybody's kind of indicted. There's blackmail on everybody. J. Edgar Hoover used to brag about this in the FBI, about how he had blackmail on everyone. Well, now we have the Patriot Act, so everyone has blackmail on them. And so you have psychoanalysis, right? Carl Jung talks about the archetypes, right? I'm not saying, by the way, that what they're saying doesn't have any like value. It's just that it's like Nietzsche, right? Nietzsche recognized a truth that God was dying in the modern world, but his conclusions of becoming like the Ubermensch or whatever, the Superman, that's a stupid conclusion in my opinion. So all of these things have like value to study, but you have to know where they come from, why they exist, what they're trying to replace, what they have replaced, right? And then what it's trained people to think, right? The mind control that's gone on through psychoanalysis, right? And so, yeah, I guess this video didn't go exactly how I thought it would be. I thought I was going to give more of a history of psychoanalysis, but the way these videos go is I kind of just give my own thoughts on things, because I've been reading about this stuff for a very long time. I don't feel the need to go super into detail on a lot of this anymore, because you know that many people have done that before. I kind of just want to speak my mind on these things the way I see it, you know, the way I see people behaving, the way the world is functioning. It's all plainly obvious to me what's going on, but again, it's the problem is so deep. There's no easy solution to this, for sure. And so, yeah, psychoanalysis was created because we have a bunch of degenerates, essentially. I made a whole video about that degenerate society. We have a bunch of degenerates running society, and they're pretty much criminals. And so the best way to get away with a crime is that you want to get as many people as possible involved in the crime. That way, you know, you can't point to who is guilty. This is also the problem with democracy. This is why I think monarchy is preferred, because with a monarchy you can point to who's doing the evil. But with our current situation right now, you can't really point to one guy who's like the guy that's doing the evil, that's got the plan, you could say, right? And that's all by design. It's all by design to confuse and deflect. Hillary Clinton even talked about that. She said whenever you get and they've done this over the years, whenever you get accused of something, you just accuse the other side of the exact same thing. So yeah, that is why To wrap this up, guys, that is why I think psychoanalysis is pushed in society. The whole point of it, there's a really good book. It's not really about psychoanalysis, but it's about MK Ultra. That's the thing I didn't actually go into. MK Ultra is a big part of this, right? And MK Ultra was them experimenting with drugs. That's another big part of psychoanalysis, is like, they call it the chemical imbalance. And when you have issues with your brain or whatever, they're like, oh, well, we'll just create a drug to address this. And then the drugs, there's a term called, I'm going to butcher the word. It's like etrogenosis or something. I don't even know if I said that right. Essentially what the word means is that you'll take something to treat a symptom, but it will create a new symptom. And then you have to take something else for that new symptom. And then I think it is I'm going to butcher it. It's a very long scientific word. But yeah, it essentially just means that, like, you treat a symptom, creates a new symptom, then you take something to treat that new symptom, creates a new symptom, and it's just, eventually you end up taking like 10 drugs. And the medical industry counts on this. This is why they want you taking all these drugs, you know. This is probably why when you're literally a baby and you don't know what's going on, this is why they give you like 8 vaccines before you've even like entered the world proper, you know. It's because down the line, those are going to create things that you're going to have to take more medicine for in the future. It's all a complex though, right? You see what medicine is. We learned this with COVID, but psychoanalysis is part of this because there's a whole range of drugs, right? Aldous Huxley wrote a book called the Doors of Perception, right? When they were experimenting, this is where the MK Ultra thing comes in, when they were experimenting with pharmaceuticals like mushrooms and, you know, peyote, marijuana. I have a theory why marijuana is pushed so heavily. If you look at Colorado is the perfect example of legalized weed and its consequences. I think Colorado literally just passed a law that says if you talk about LGBT people in a negative way, it's hate speech. So there's like an actual hate speech law in Colorado now. So yes, legalized marijuana, psychoanalysis, and its consequences, right? So yeah, I was going to end it, but I had to get into the MK Ultra. So that it's about drugs, it's about mind control. It's basically, guys, if you want to really know, it's about you not finding the truth. It's about you being a medical patient for life, and it's about you never seeking outside of that. Their ultimate goal, in my theory, is they literally want to replace God with themselves. So everything you would have just gone to the church for, you now have to go for them, right? Another thing with medicine is a lot of medicine can just be cured with diet. Again, I have to say that none of this is medical advice, just for legal reasons. Don't can me, YouTube. This is just my own personal opinion, right? But yeah, a lot of illnesses can just be caused by changing your diet. And this is becoming more mainstream anyway. RFK Jr.'s talking about this. It's like the only good thing about him, honestly, is that he's pretty good on the medicine diet front. But yeah, that's kind of the video, guys. I hope all this makes sense. I hope you guys are enjoying the more rambly style, but to me, it is just Sigmund Freud. It's just a complete fraud, because everything is just it's a cheap facsimile of something that already existed prior, that was better and more healthy for society, because you had like a genuine community. That's another thing about all this stuff, right? Is these people are like professionals, they're intellectuals. They're trained to treat you, but they're not trained to really care about you. And, you know, they pretend to care, but it's like a job, right? It's like when jobs call you, oh, you're my work family, right? We're a work family. Like, all that's BS. And everybody knows it. This is what happens when you live in a multicultural society, in the melting pot. Nobody has any shared history. Nobody has any shared values, shared culture. The only value that Americans share is, how do I make money? And the money itself is a fraud as well. So it's just like it's layers. It's like Shrek, dude. It's layers, onion layers of fraud. So yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say, guys. That is the video. If you guys enjoyed that, my name is Joey. This is the Jigsaw 0097 channel. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, comment down below. Love to hear from you guys. But yeah, with that, I will talk to you on the next one.